Depending on how much information you have entered into the electronic health record for a client, you may want to put some controls in place to manage how this information is accessed and used. The client record can store a lot of details, from demographic data to background history to medical information to treatment plan info and so much more. Because of the sensitive nature of this information, it is important to understand how your security setup controls the visibility and editing rights to this data. The security setup can be found in the Configure desktop under Security in the Configure Roles menu. Different levels of access can be created for each role. So once a role is selected, you can begin determining how each user assigned to that role will work with client information. This is managed under the Desktop Security tab. You will start by checking the client's desktop. Doing so will automatically check the client's dashlet under the Dashboard section. This check will automatically allow access to every section of the client record, so be sure to expand this section for full visibility to each area within the client's desktop. You may need to remove the checks for areas you do not wish the users in this role to have access to. Notice that the first three sections, Client General, Client History, and Client Medical, can each be further expanded. In order to best determine what to allow, you will need to familiarize yourself with each of these categories in the client record. To do so, go to the client's desktop and search for a client. Open the client record and walk through each of the various sections. Notice the General, History, and Medical section that we just saw in Securities. Each has its own set of tabs. The Security menu allows you to pick which of these tabs you would like to have open for each role. At the simplest level, a role may only be allowed to see the Identification tab in the General section. If no other tab or section is allowed, this is the only component of the client chart the users in that role would see. After familiarizing yourself with the full client record, you will be prepared to begin the security setup. If you find that a section in any of the tabs within the section is not suitable for a role, then simply do not put a check next to the corresponding category. When these checks are removed, the users will not have any visibility at all to that area of the client record. Once you have opened up the appropriate areas for a role, you may then choose to make the data contained within each section read-only or denied. This is managed under the Data Security tab. It is only necessary to complete this step if you have allowed access to a particular section and want to control how the data is used. If you do not allow access to a section altogether under the Desktop Security tab, then the users do not even have the rights to get to that data, so there is no need to protect it with read-only or denied settings. The data group All Clients defaults to affect all clients within the database. You can expand this to see the various folders that contain the data fields of the client record. For example, when expanding the client folder, you will see each data field presented in the Identification section under Desktop Security. If you have allowed access to this section and would like to limit the users from editing the data, then apply check marks to the read-only column for each field you want protected. If you mark denied for a field, the data is replaced with an asterisk so that the information is blocked. For example, you may wish to block the Social Security number from being seen, while the remaining fields are read-only. Continue on this path for all relative client folders. You may need to create additional data groups if you want to isolate these read-only and denied settings to a particular group of clients. For example, if a user should be able to have full access, both viewing and editing rights, for the clients in their cost center, but should only have read-only rights for clients in other cost centers, then you would not want to apply the settings to the default All Clients group. Rather, you would create a new data grouping. That is done under Configure Data Groupings. Add a data grouping and give it a name. In this case, the group is being created to protect client data. Add parameter to define the group, whether it will be a cost center, a queue, or a specific client. Then select accordingly. Once you have saved the data grouping, you can then apply the read-only and denied settings accordingly under the Data Security tab for that group. Should you have any questions regarding the client security, please submit your inquiry by going to Options, Support, and Contact Support.